Hi all, this is Skate, and here is a video that is long overdue on this channel. It's the WZ113. Now I tried to get this video finished prior to going away for a while, and then I tried to get it finished when I get back. But then update 5.5 rolled around and we got access to all the new interesting things on there. Interesting is probably a strange word to use for it, but we'll use it anyway. And then we finally get to a point where we can get this WZ113 video finished. And it's probably one of the most requested videos on this channel so far. So I'm going to keep the rambling to a minimum on this one. I'll try anyway. And I'm going to try to get straight stuck in on this, because there's a lot to talk about in a short period of time. And this is a damn strong tier 10 tank. We've already absorbed a fair chunk of damage just using our side armor here. And that's thanks to 120mm of side armor. It's also got 120mm of frontal hull armor, 70 on the rear. It's got 260 on the front of the turret, 160 on the sides, and only 80 on the rear. So don't give anything to your rear to shoot at. Realistically, give everything to the side of your tank. And you're going to have a whale of a time in this thing. It's a very low slung tank. It's got a wicked low silhouette. And it's got good armor, I mean really good. Only in the right circumstance though. I mean, it's a small tank. It's got good armor figures, but you can see that front slope is... You can see the front armor on the hull is ridiculously well sloped. What that basically means is when you're playing this thing medium range or when you're side scraping up, that angling is fantastic. When you're playing this thing at very close range, that frontal armor isn't so impressive with the angling, purely because people are pointing down on it. And when you start pointing down on the front upper plate on this thing, it's a very easy pen. So, if you are in a circumstance like this where you just get stuck in and you brawl, be careful of people shooting down on that front plate, because that's when your armor is at its weakest. If I'm going in for hugs, I'll try and do it with something which has virtually no gun depression, so it's got my turret to shoot at. Or I'll try and do it with something which is around the same sort of height. If not, I will try and keep a couple of meters apart. By keeping a couple of meters apart, you're in a circumstance there where they have to try and shoot at your upper plate, but it's not pointing down on it. And they can't get your lower plate in that circumstance. Even with things like Death Stars, I do like hugging a Death Star in this tank because it gives them your turret to shoot at. And it annoys the hell out of them when they get a stupid amount of bounces when you're wiggling around non-stop. So armor, very simply, as you'd expect for a tier 10 tank, is very strong. If you're comparing it to something like a 50B, yeah, it's blatantly strong. Comparing it to something like an IS-7, again, it's very much comparable. Part of the reason we're starting to see this an awful lot in Clan Wars. But that's not the only reason. As well as having a good armor profile, you've also got a bloody good gun. I mean, a tier 10 heavy with 3,275 damage per minute. It's just stupid. It's got better pen than your average medium with that sort of DPM. They're usually looking, what, 240, 245, 250? This thing's rocking 255. Set an IS-7 up with a rammer the same you would this, and this has 3,275. The IS-7 has 2,583. That's like 700 damage per minute more. Combine that with the fact that it only has 5mm less pen than an IS-7, you're starting to get something which fires a lot, does a lot of damage in a minute, and can bounce shells. It's also got the same 6 degrees of gun depression, just like an IS-7, but what it does have is a way better accuracy. 0.31 gun dispersion on this, 0.36 on an IS-7. It's also just under half a second quicker in terms of aim time than an IS-7. This thing fires APCR as standard instead of AP, so it's got an extra 50mm of shell velocity. You'd be surprised how much difference that will make when you're firing at mediums going full speed. This is a comparative that tickles me. If you fired nothing but premium ammunition in this tank, you still have 500 more damage per minute than an IS-7 would firing its standard ammo. And you'd have 335mm of penetration. It can't be just me that's reading that, looking at that and going, hang on. So an IS-7 firing, its standard AP does 2,583. This thing firing premium does 3,030. That's just odd. That's not the only comparative. I mean, I'd draw comparatives between this and WZ-121. I mean, I don't know why you'd pick a WZ-121 instead of a 133, but even if you did, this thing has more damage per minute with its premium ammunition than a WZ-121 has with its standard ammunition. That has 2,999 damage per minute, with virtually the same alpha. I keep reading these figures thinking, this is just stupid. And then you have to sit there and think, wow, this tank must have some seriously negative drawbacks. The only thing we haven't covered is mobility. Well, if you're comparing again to an IS-7, this thing's faster. It has the same top speed, it has the same reverse speed, it has more brake horsepower per ton. It doesn't weigh as much, it doesn't have a stronger engine, but it'll get to its top speed faster. Where this tank sucks, in my opinion, is the hull traverse speed. It's bloody awful. It feels like it's stuck in treacle. It's just slow. But, really? That's it? Just a little bit of bad traverse speed is the balance for all those wonderful yummy things. Sorry, in the interest of full clarity, it's got 50 less hit points than an IS-7. Yeah, okay, still not balancing, is it? Right. The major difference, in my opinion, is, although I think the armor on this thing is very competent, very effective, I think the IS-7 is more user-friendly. It's easier to manipulate the armor on an IS-7 than it is on something like this. It's easier to manipulate the armor correctly on an IS-4 than it is on something like this. That being said, you come across an experienced player in one of these things with that damage per minute and that armor, knowing how to use it, they will be more than capable of shredding an awful lot of tanks. I've probably come across these in battle tons of times and found they are really easy to just pick apart if they don't know how to drive them. If you don't know how to drive them, or you're caught in the wrong sort of position, yeah, your side armor, I mean, if I get shot in the butt now, for example, it's going to take me a year to turn and point the strongest parts of my tank at them. That's not helpful for me. It's that sort of situation where you can catch this tank out. That's where it's weaker. But against a competent driver, I would be terrified of one of these things. I mean, this thing is fantastic at dispatching medium tanks. You can match them shot for shot for damage per minute. And there's a high probability their shots are going to bounce, and there's not a high probability your shots are going to bounce. Remember, you've got better armor than most medium tanks of this tier. And on top of that, you have better penetration, they have worse. So you have better armor, they have worse armor. It kind of doesn't balance, except for them trying to circle you. But if you can put yourself in a circumstance where a medium tank cannot circle you, you're going to win that engagement one-on-one with a medium every single time. This is a solid, a dependable, a reliable tier 10 heavy tank. And here's the biggest thing that throws me. It's such a good tank. It is. I'm not saying it's OP. Maybe it is. But I cannot get my head around why this tank is not more popular. As a comparative, IS-7, over the last 90 days, as an average, has had 5,290 users play the tank. IS-4, 2,600. WZ-113, 1,300. Now the WZ-121 has less than 1,000 users over the last 90 days. Which, to be fair, doesn't surprise me in the slightest. And the reason it doesn't surprise me in the slightest is, quite simply, why would you drive one when you can get a WZ-113? So if you're just still on the back burner, grinding the Chinese lines, stop. Take all your focus off the mediums and put it straight on the heavy line. Because at tier 10, the 113 just smashes a 121 in my opinion. You've got a WZ121 that basically sits there and goes, ooh, I've got a heavy tank gun. Yeah, so 113's looking at him going, well, I've got the same gun, but I'm still better, and I have better armor, and better DPM, and better penetration. I just lack the traverse. Unless, of course, you're one of the weirdos and you fall into that bracket with me, and you have to grind every single tech tree tank. But even so, go up this line, then go up the medium one. You won't regret it. As it stands, by the way, in terms of gameplay, because I've gone off on tangents, like I said I wouldn't at the start, it's a 1 versus 3. And they're doing exactly the right thing. They're all pushing together. Now, they should have waited longer for the Yagi 100 to come along, because that would have made my life a living hell right now. But look, they're doing exactly the right thing. I'm going to ignore the one tank, though, take that out, and now I'm going to focus my attention on this guy. And you can see he's looking down on that front upper plate, which is exactly what he needs to do. I've just noticed the Yag, and that's why I'm reversing as quick as I can. So I'm going to go for the hatches on this tank, and I'm hoping I can catch him twice in the hatches before he gets a full reload in. But I don't. This time he's not reversed up a ridge, which is why he couldn't get a solid, reliable penetration into me. And now it's 1 shot versus 1 shot. I have an advantage, though. I have a turret. He does not. That means I can point my gun out, side scrape out effectively. Yes, he can splash me with HE, but because of the turret, if I go out this direction, my wheels are coming out first. This is when I work this out for myself, as you can tell, because I'm coming back in. When I come back in here, I can point the gun just out enough so I can catch the side of him with a heat round and finish him off. He did just try to move, which implies he did realise what I was trying to do just a little bit too late, which means we won that engagement. We lost a little bit of credits, but we won a 1 versus 3, got ourselves a Mastery's 5,200 damage. So all the things considered on this tank, guys, there's only one part that baffles me the most. Why it's played so little in comparison to the other tier 10 heavies. It's a very strong tank. It's a very capable tank. Yet it's seldom seen compared to an IS-7, compared to an IS-4. E100 plays slightly different, granted, but it's that sort of style, just with a lot more damage per minute. So if you haven't jumped on this bandwagon, which it turns out a lot of people haven't, go and get a WZ113. At least try it. Personally, I tried this on Super Test, and I hated the tank on Super Test. I just thought it was a bit naff. And it was even slower traversing. But now, I think it's an absolute animal. That's it for this video, though. Hope you have enjoyed it. Thank you very much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.